Well, joining me now in the Turkish city of Gaziantep is Murat Aslan. He led the intelligence division within the Turkish Armed Forces and is now a security researcher at think tank the SETA Foundation. In London is Guma el Gamaty. He's a member of the UN-backed political dialogue group, as well as the head of the Tahrir party in Libya. And in San Antonio, Texas is Mansour el Kikhia. He's the author of Libya's Qaddafi, The Politics of Contradiction. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Guma el Gamaty, is Haftar trying to draw Turkey into a direct confrontation?
I think what he has attempted to do the last 2 days is to divert attention away from the humiliating defeat in Gharyan, my home city. On Wednesday, he was defeated badly. It was a quick victory. His head of command, Abdulsalam al-Hasi, ran away with senior officers. And remember, in 4th of April, Gharyan was the first stop of Haftar's campaign to attack Tripoli. He took over Gharyan first, and now he lost Gharyan first, and this is the reverse order of his defeat, hopefully soon. So what he's trying to do is to divert attention, so he's creating this stupid, silly story about targeting Turkey and Turkish citizens and Libya, as well as he created another story, fabricated story as well, about killing injured people, coldly killed in Gharyan hospital, which is totally untrue and unfounded, and also a fabrication. So somebody is helping him, possibly the Egyptian military intelligence in Rajma. They are making these stories. They know that media is very powerful, so why not divert attention away from the real humiliation and real defeat of Haftar in Gharyan? This is one reason. The other reason is I think Haftar would be stupid to draw Turkey into the war, because he knows that Turkey is a very powerful country. It's got the second largest army in NATO, probably the 7th or 8th largest in the world. It's a very powerful country, and if he draws Turkey in, it will be to his detriment. So I don't think he's that stupid, and I don't think the Egyptians will allow him to do that, because that might draw the Egyptians directly as well, and the Egyptians would be scared of Turkey, of a direct confrontation with Turkey over Libya as well.
Mansour, do you agree that this is a symptom of him being humiliated, and a symptom, Mansour, of him losing ground ever since he tried to take Tripoli?
Honestly, I think, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure seeing you again and your viewers. But secondly, I think more important, the fact that is that it ain't over until it's over. The fat lady hasn't sung yet, okay? And this is war. War is, in Benghazi, we saw the same thing happening. They would move in and move out, and move in and move out, and it doesn't happen. So this is war. Because, okay, Gharyan now was free. Free from what? Because this result of militias, because they stabbed Haftar in his back, and it's stupid Haftar to believe in militias in the first place. I wouldn't put any faith in them, and he did, and he learned a very powerful lesson. This is one. Secondly, I don't think it's over. First of all, I think Haftar will get back into Gharyan, and he will take it. He will take it again. So it's not an issue of being pushed back. Secondly, and I think even more important, I don't think it's Haftar who actually picked the fight with Turkey. I think Turkey picked the fight with Haftar, but primarily because Turkey is supporting these militias, and these militias are bad for Turkey as well as not only for Libya. I mean, I wouldn't bet on these guys.
Okay, so let's ask Murat Aslan. Okay, Mansour made a point, Murat Aslan, saying that Haftar is not picking a fight with Turkey. Turkey is picking a fight with Haftar. Address that for us.
Well, first, let's check first, who is the legitimate actor in Libya? Tripoli. There's a legitimate government recognized by the United Nations, and also, all countries all around the world. And Haftar is just the general commander-in-chief of Libya, and this title was given by the Government of National Accord, which is positioned in Tripoli. What Haftar is doing right now is to be again a dictator like a Qaddafi. This is the common perception of Libya. Let me tell you one significant issue. We have conducted a survey and gathered 32 different workshops in Tunisia, in Turkey, and we consulted with all segments of Libyans. And everybody is, just saying that They do not want another Qaddafi pointing out Haftar. What Haftar is currently doing is just dividing the country. It doesn't matter if Haftar is a soldier, is a nationalist or ideologist, doesn't matter. But what he's doing is currently harming the Libyan people. That's the issue. And what Turkey is doing for Libya is that just respecting international law and supporting the legitimate government. That's it. But if Haftar starts threatening Turkey, then Turkey has the capacity to intervene, to save the lives of Turkish citizens and also help legitimate government of Libya.
Well, it seems as if over the past 24 hours, the threat has worked because those Turkish citizens who were detained were released. So it remains to be seen what happens next. Guma el Gamaty, are we seeing this war open up into more and more of an international proxy war? So you have Haftar and his backers on the one side, the Egyptians, the Emiratis, the French to a certain extent, the Russians to a certain extent. And on the other hand, Turkey, Qatar, and other players. Are we going to see more and more of this as we go along?
It has already been a regional and an international war. Since 2014, the Emiratis, the Egyptians, the French have been logistically, militarily supporting Haftar. This is well documented. Mansour says that Turkey is supporting militias in Libya. And yet, as an academic, he totally overlooks the fact that just a few days ago, American weapons sold to Abu Dhabi were found with the militia in Gharyan, which helped Haftar take over the city. Haftar entered Gharyan with the help of a militia. Haftar is fighting in Tarhuna with the help of a militia headed by somebody called Muhsin al-Kani. Haftar is using Salafi, Mudkhali militias from Jdabia and from Kufra and from probably the west of Libya as well to cover Gharyan and fighting south of Tripoli. Haftar is using mercenaries from Darfur, Sudanese opposition mercenaries. So who is supporting militias in Libya? Is it Turkey or is it the Emiratis with their advanced American weapons, well documented, and the American State Department is now investigating it, and also the Egyptians and the French? You know, please, you know, don't fool the followers of what's going on in Libya, because they know exactly. We are in 2019. Everybody knows what's going on, and they can easily access real, accurate, up-to-date information. So it's already been a regional war. It's already been international. Possibly Turkey has supplied arms to the legitimate government in Tripoli recently, but the Emiratis, the Egyptians, and the French, they've been at it for 5 years now. That is the reality. And it's up to Haftar and the Egyptians if they want to really take on the might of Turkey. I think that will be very detrimental to them, and they will think twice about doing that.
Mansour, US-made weapons ended up in the hands of Haftar's fighters, and it seems as if it came through the UAE. Doesn't that show you that Haftar is essentially reliant on foreign arms? He's using militias. You've heard the argument.
I'm sorry. I mean, there's an open market for weapons. You can get American weapons, Russian weapons, Brazilian weapons, Turkish weapons on the open market. So stop doing that. The other factor, which I'd like to disagree with your Turkish analysts over here, yes, perhaps the United Nations recognizes Sarraj and his government as legitimate. But believe me, most of those countries surrounding Libya, whether it's Emirat, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Chad, Niger, they support Haftar because they know what these militias are capable of doing. They know what they have done in Africa. These are bad people. Bad people who don't serve the interests of Libya.
But do you believe that Haftar is less bad? He's bad, but he's less bad, so maybe he deserves a chance.
Exactly. I'm not. You have to understand. I am not supporting Haftar for the sake of Haftar. I'm not doing that. My major concern is Libya. I do not want to see Libya under the rule of 10th century ideologues.
Right.
This is very important.
Okay. Mansour,
Okay.
you say that those militias do terrible things and all the countries in the region are aware of the brutality of these militias. And presumably you're talking about Islamist militias, right? But,
Yes.
okay, but we heard from Guma el Gamaty that you have these mudkhalis, these hardcore Salafis that Haftar is using. So he himself, he can't be this kind of secular strongman who's destroying the Islamists if he himself is using the most hardcore Saudi Salafis himself.
Well, first of all, you have to be very clear about what sects of Salafis, the number of Salafis, different types of Salafis. They're certainly not the ISIS form of Salafis. This is one. And I don't take everything Guma el Gamaty says as pure fact. It isn't. I'm sorry. Okay. He has an interest in a certain way of thinking, which I don't subscribe to. There are Salafis. That
Neither
is
do
true.
I.
But there's Salafis in Turkey as well too. Mr.
Sure.
Erdogan follows
But my point, Mansour, the point is that if Haftar is this guy who's destroying the religiously inspired militias while at the same time using a hardcore Saudi Salafi sect, doesn't that hamper your theory a little bit?
I mean, where did you get that hardcore Salafi sects coming from?
The
We haven't
Mudkhalis.
seen those Salafi sects you're talking about.
The mudkhalis.
What are they? I don't see them. I don't see them doing anything that identifies them as being mudkhalis, as being separate from what Haftar is doing. I
Okay.
don't see that.
Okay.
If I see that, I'll tell you yes.
Okay.
But that's not happening.
Okay. So Guma, this is just pragmatism. Okay. So Guma el Gamaty, this is just pragmatism. Haftar's using whoever he's using because it's war.
You know, it's really sad, Imran, to see an academic who lived in America for 40 years and totally dismisses reality. And yet, he comes from Benghazi as well. He hasn't seen or heard of what happened around Benghazi in the last 4 years. Mahmoud al-Wirfelli and the cold-blooded killing, and ICC issuing an arrest warrant for him. Al-Abyar massacre, Granada prison and all the torture that goes there. What the Benghazi and Eastern people know as the oil street, where tortured, killed bodies are thrown into. All these things are well documented. Mansour can dismiss them, but the ICC, the United Nations, the human rights organizations, Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, all these people have documented them very well, and they are following them very well. So really, what Mansour claims or says is insignificant here. It is what the world sees and what the Libyan sees. Haftar is using killers, he's using mercenaries, he's using militias, including the one in Gharyan and in Tarhuna. This is well documented. All Libyans know that. It doesn't matter what Mansour says, to be honest with you.
Murat Aslan, something that's been fascinating over the past 48 hours is that living here within Turkey, suddenly Libya is a part of the chatter. People are talking about the Turkish role in Libya. They're asking questions, right? Would it ever reach a point where Haftar decides to take on the Turkish government to the extent that the Turkish government decides maybe supporting Sarraj's internationally recognized government, no doubt, but maybe supporting Sarraj's government is not worth the trouble because we might have our own people being killed and our own interests being attacked? Might that happen?
First, we have to get rid of illusions, you know. Everybody may claim something, but the reality is just in Libya, and Libyan public is experiencing it. The first issue is that there is a great deprivation of basic needs in Libya after the revolution because the unity has always been in danger. The second thing, Libyans assumed, you know, the heritage of Qaddafi era, and unfortunately, Haftar is in a position to carry this heritage in benefit of himself and also foreign powers. What is the stance of Turkey against this situation, this picture? The first issue is that Turkey is not interested in internal affairs of Libya, but Turkey feels responsible to provide support in terms of opinions, in terms of, you know, morale, in terms of financial aid, in terms of infrastructural aid, and also investment, as Turkey did before. But unfortunately, in Libya now we have two different systems. And Haftar is heavily exploiting this system just to feed, you know, his own army which is numbered like 4,000 to 5,000 people. And imagine that he is having cash from United Arab Emirates other than arms and paying for that. And now we witness African fighters in Libya fighting against Libyans by the support of United Arab Emirates and by the hands of Haftar. So the puzzle is simple but complicated. And what Turkey is doing right now is just to give a hand and help, but within the frame of international actors, international law. But Haftar starts threatening Turkish interests, like, vessels or, confiscating vessels or seamen, then Turkey must act because it's a piracy and Turkey is free of responding any type of piracy in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea.
Mansour, if every outside factor and every outside party stopped their support of either side right now, who would win?
Haftar would win.
How do you know that?
I'll tell you why Haftar would win. Not because you're enamored with Haftar, but because Haftar brings stability, which Sarraj does not. Sarraj is a government, is maybe legitimate for the international community, but it is not legitimate to Libyans. And more important to me is who is legitimate to Libyans, not who is legitimate to the United Nations.
Juma's a Libyan. He's sitting in London. He sees him as illegitimate. He sees Haftar as illegitimate.
That's fine. But Mr. El Gamaty has a party that maybe got one vote. Okay, that's all. So it seems to me that you have to look at the cross section of Libyan society. This is one. Secondly, even more important to me, everything is by force except love. If they don't want the East, they can go their own way. If the West want, they can go their own way. They can have their own state. They can have their own oil. They have their own territory. They have their own relations. Mr. Turkey can help them and support them and leave us alone. They want an Islamic state. They can have an Islamic state. I believe in total freedom of this. Just leave us alone. We will keep our Haftar. Haftar is bad. We will keep him. You keep the Islamic state. We don't want that. This is not what I want. I want a free, democratic Libya with a government that is legitimate, that is supported by the majority of Libyan people. Okay, I don't want religion involved in the process.
Okay.
I want to see a separation
Let's
between
get a
church and
response.
state.
Okay, so Juma, is that what you want? You want a religious state. That's why Mansour is against you.
Absolutely not. And Mansour knows that, but he's trying to paint a bad picture of the other side. Look, Imran, the conflict in Libya is about two discourses at conflict. A military discourse headed by Haftar, who wants to regress us back, take us back to military rule, to dictatorship, to one-man rule like Gaddafi, because Haftar was one of Gaddafi's companions in the coup in 1969. That is one discourse. Going back to the Egyptian model now, military dictatorship, one-man rule, which the Libyans revolted against in 2011. And the other discourse is moving forward, aspiring to setting up a constitutional civilian state based on rule of law, institutions, and democracy, and the ballot box. And this is exactly the two discourses which are fighting each other now in Libya. I have no doubt that Haftar and his military discourse is doomed. He will fail. He will be totally defeated. And the coming months and years will prove that, despite what Mansour wishes. But this is the reality. And hopefully this is exactly what turned out. It's not about an Islamic state. That is rubbish. We are all Muslims. We want a civic state where it is based on rule of law, not on religion. It's led by elected people, not by people of the religion. Mansour knows that very well, but he wants to taint the other side so that he shows Haftar, which he supports, in a better light. That is really sad.
Murat Aslan, very finally, from the Turkish perspective, a year ago we were talking about potential power sharing. We were talking about a roadmap to elections. Haftar and Sarraj were meeting. All of that's somewhat out of the window right now. Are we in a position where Turkey cannot accept someone like Haftar ever getting absorbed into power sharing, where Turkey has taken a side and this is where they're going?
Actually, it's Libyan people who decides that, not Turkey. as you remember, there was a conference in Italy, and Haftar shook the hand of the legitimate government. And Haftar had met, Sarraj, and they discussed the issues on constitution making, elections, and political discourse in the country for future. But suddenly, Haftar changed the path and preferred, military intervention to Tripoli. It was sudden and surprise. First sent almost 500 vehicles to south just to affect the tribes at the deep south of the Libyan. And later then, he claimed something, an argument. He's going Tripoli to counter terrorism. Well, this argument is not valid in Libya because it's Haftar who allowed ISIS to pass from the lines of Haftar's forces and penetrate to other cities before. Then it's not an issue of countering terrorism, but countering the legitimate government and to wipe out all the political figures from the country and build not a civic country, but a military-based government which will favor Haftar as a puppet, but also, favor Egypt and United Arab Emirates. So that's the end state. And Turkey favors Libyan people, not Haftar, and it is the only way to have a constitution that's already drafted and also elections in the country.
Murat Aslan, Guma el Gamaty, and Mansour el Kikhia, pleasure having you all on the Newsmakers. Thanks for joining us.